Hey, this is Santiniketan. It's a beautiful place. I arrived here, and when I walked out the first day, it was calm and the sun was setting, and I just thought to myself, this is a really good place to do a project. Um, yeah, and I think there's a lot of people all doing the same things, like creating and thinking. So, yeah, it's a good environment to be in.
Probably the first questions or first queries would be that, so yesterday we have almost started the end of your residency. So that's 3 days of exhibitions, which will conclude the residency. And it's a new start, so I would like to see it as a new start. On that perspective, how do you think that whether the residency over here for last 2 months was helpful for you?
Sure.
And if you think so, then how would you describe it? That what are the areas you think that helped you, and why a residency on photographic, like alternative photography, more photography or historical processes, or whatever we offer here? Why it is important, how it actually helped you
Sure.
to visualize the shape. So that's the way.
Yeah. I mean, I guess because I'm coming at photography from. I was born in 1996, so digital was kind of come into the fore as that all happened. So I kind of grew up with digital more than film, and I then obviously moved back to film, but kind of missed, as you say, the whole historical process, and like that's the foundation of our practice, effectively, isn't it? So it's been, I guess, almost an honour to contextualise myself more in the actual history of photography, in a place where it's possible and with someone who knows how to do it so well. And I just feel very lucky to have had the opportunity for that. And I feel like it's made me look at my work a lot differently and think more. I'm no longer thinking, not that I was necessarily anyway, just thinking about the final product, but I'm really thinking more about the process and how I guess I'm growing with the project as the project grows with me. Because you are your work at the end of the day, aren't you? So it's been quite good to reflect.
And
It's 2 months for us. It's a long engagement between you and the studio members here. But would love to hear from you, like the past 2 months, how you evolved with your ideas and the process that you came along and selected of doing.
I think it's just about tying the actual location of where I've been shooting more, it's not shooting, creating more to the actual output. I see the world as pigment now. Anything could become part of the final print, which I think is so powerful. That you can really tie, I guess, geography in place to
Can
your
you
work.
elaborate on that?
Sure. So through the gum dichromic process, which Aranya shared with me, I'm now looking or thinking about all of these negatives that I've got at home and I've done nothing with. In fact, there's one specific project. So there was when I was growing up, there were these abandoned warehouses, and I always used to go to these warehouses and people would do graffiti and people would have parties and all this, and it was quite pivotal quite important to my growing up in Stroud, I guess. And then one day I went back to Stroud. I hadn't been back for a couple of years, and there was, where the warehouses had been, there was just a pile of rubble. And I was like, and I went to the pile of rubble and I started documenting it. I started going through the rubble and I started removing all these bits of graffitied wool. And so I have all these pieces of graffitied wool, and I didn't know what I was going to use them for then. And I've got lots of photos of the warehouse when it was still a warehouse, all the graffiti's there and people are, partying or whatever. And so I was planning to do something with that, but now I've come here, I realised what I'm going to do when I go back is I'm going to scrape the paint from the graffitied wall, turn it into pigment, and then print the images that I made years ago of the graffiti with the graffiti that is part of the wall, effectively.
So do you think that the kind of residencies, the kind of an art practices we work here, that has that energy or that has that potential to generate a kind of these kind of an imaginative thoughts?
100%. It's a safe environment to experiment and bounce ideas off from, and it's quite amazing to have your understanding and your context within it all as well, and Manoj's effort and just all of you around you're not doing it alone, if you know what I mean. Although don't arrive with the expectation that you're going to have someone there to support you constantly, but if you have an idea, roll with it, and then go to you guys and be like, oh, this is what I'm doing, and it's just good to have someone or people to bounce ideas off, I guess. And yeah, it truly, to push your practice beyond, I think, yeah, it's a good place to start from.
So, how was your experience of yesterday's gathering and the kind of the exchange you have, and what is your opinion about the exhibitions and the final display? Let's say display.
The work in progress show.
Work in progress show.
Yeah. I mean, I've had experience doing group shows back home. So obviously you have a tiny little corner or a tiny little wall, so it was nice to be in a space and just kind of have the opportunity to fill it, I guess. And it's to have people looking at your work and making you think about it differently as well. And it's, as I mentioned already, but it feels like a safe environment to do that to push ideas and to, have your ideas challenged as well, because we're coming from quite different places in the world, so we have quite different backgrounds of philosophy or thought, but I think fundamentally we're interested in the same thing, which is so it's interesting that we can kind of share in that. Through hearing people talk and look at the work yesterday, it's made me look at and think about it differently. So I mean, that in itself was priceless, I think. And strangely, I like the piece less now that I liked before than the one that I like now upstairs, which is interesting. Sorry,
it will change slowly and it will evolve, I think. And we have asked you many times, but still keep a note on that. But you came to know about Studio Goppo from one of their kindred, or how you came to know about Studio Goppo? Can you just narrate the story once again for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was at a portfolio review at the end of my MA in London at UAL, and I was showing my work to people. Most people didn't really get it, or would try and get it and would be like, I think I know where you're coming from. This one lady, I wish his name, I'll remember her name, but she looked at the work and she was like, I'm really trying to get this, but I know some people who will. And I was like, oh really, who's that? And she said, Studio Goppo, look them up. And she said she's always wanted to go. I think she's maybe even applied to come before as well. And he said, yeah. So she just sent me in this direction, basically, and I'm very glad of that. It's weird how little threads tie everything together, isn't it?
And what are your plans ahead of this place?
Sure.
What are you planning for?
Yeah. Well, I've been inspired so much by the studio that I want to make something similar but more mobile. So I had a van before, so yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna make a van, come back and see you guys, and then we're gonna travel. That's the plan.